So now you've done your major scales, and you've learned about the major mode and what that sounds like, and you've done your minor in the form of Dorian scales, so you've learned about that. And those are two of the very most common modes used in Irish music. I would say another mode that is also one of the most common modes in Irish music is the Mixolydian mode. So I would say that the major, the Dorian, and the Mixolydian are the three most commonly used modes in Irish music. And so you have the major, then the Dorian is thought of as the minor. The Dorian is a kind of minor mode. And then the Mixolydian is sort of in between major and minor. It has aspects of both major and minor. So a lot of people in Irish music just refer to those tunes as modal because they don't fit neatly into a major or a minor. So in that you can think of it as major, minor, and then modal. Or you can use the terms major, Dorian, and Mixolydian if you want. And I would say that neither way is really better or more precise than the other, because Irish tunes don't necessarily neatly, perfectly fit into them anyway. There's a lot of tunes that are strictly major, and a lot that are strictly Dorian, and a lot that are strictly Mixolydian. But there's also a lot of tunes that aren't necessarily strictly in any one or the other. And of course, the most important thing is that when you use a term, the person that you're talking to knows what you mean. So that is kind of the most important thing about communication, I suppose, is that the people that you're communicating with know what you're talking about. Anyway, but we're going to move on to the Mixolydian mode now. And so I'll just begin by showing you an example of an Irish tune that is in the Mixolydian mode. This is the Mooncoin Jig, and I'm just going to play the first part of it. And it is in A Mixolydian, or A modal. So here we go. Here we go. Here. The Mooncoin Jig. So that is the first part of the Mooncoin Jig. You'll notice it doesn't come to an end on an A there, so I added the A at the end to give it a greater sense of completion. But that's only the first part of the tune. And that's a good example of what a Mixolydian or modal tune would sound like. So just to give you sort of a basis for comparison, I'll do it now. So I'll play it again in the Mixolydian, and then I'll do it in major, and then I'll do it in the Mixolydian, and then in the minor. So here we go, Mixolydian and then major. So. That was Mixolydian, and now here in major, in a strict major mode. So you can hear the difference there. And they're similar mostly, but there's a little bit of a difference, and it can be striking in certain instances. So, and now I'll do the Mixolydian again, and then follow that with the Dorian or minor. So here we go, Mixolydian. And now I'll do that in the minor or Dorian mode. So you can hear the difference there too. And you can come to your own conclusions about how similar they are. To my ear, I will say that the Mixolydian it sounds much more major than it does minor, to my ear most of the time. But I don't know that everybody in Irish music feels that way about it, and you're free to draw your own conclusion. And as to the differences, the specific difference between major and Mixolydian and between the minor or the Dorian and Mixolydian, we'll get into that when we go over the worksheets and the singing and playing exercises. So off we go. So the Mixolydian mode, if you wanted to look at it in terms of just using the white keys on the piano, is the mode based on G. And if you want to go back to your earlier worksheets where you worked out the patterns of whole steps and half steps between, just exclusively between the white keys, and go to the one on G, you can see the patterns of whole steps and half steps that make up the Mixolydian mode. But I also have reproduced it right up here for you. So basically you go up a whole step, then another whole step, then a half step, then a whole step, another whole step, and then another half step, and then another whole step up to the top there. So that is the pattern of whole steps and half steps in the Mixolydian mode. So this is just the same as all those other worksheets. You should be an expert at this by now. So I'm going to just fill this one out as an example for you. So we go, put the scale degrees in here. 1, up a whole step to 2, up a whole step to 3, up a half step to 4, up a whole step to 5, up a whole step to 6, up a half step to 7, and up another whole step to 1. So we're starting on A, so I'll just write in the letters here. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And first one is A natural. The second one, the second scale degree, is B natural. The third scale degree needs to be a C, so that would be a C sharp there. The fourth scale degree is D natural. The fifth scale degree needs to be an E, so that's E natural. The sixth scale degree needs to be an F. In this case, it would be F sharp. The seventh scale degree needs to be a G, so we have G natural, and then we end up on A again. So we have A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A. So the tonic, of course, is A. The mode, I'm going to write Mixolydian. That people do talk about Mixolydian tunes. I think sometimes they just say mixed tunes too, as short for Mixolydian. You could also think of it, if you want, I guess, as a mix of major and minor. And when people talk about modal tunes, they usually are talking about tunes in this mode. So, sharps and flats here, we have C sharp and F sharp. So, I'll fill this out. So again, we have scale degrees. 1, up a whole step to 2, up a whole step to 3, up a half step to 4, up a whole step to 5, up a whole step to 6, up a half step to 7, and up another whole step to 1. And the pitches for A Mixolydian are A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A. And now the scale degrees we have from A to B, from 1 to 2. From A to B we have 1, 2 half steps. From 1 to 3, in this case, is from A to C sharp. So A to C sharp, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps. From 1 to 4, from A up to D, so A to D, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 half steps. From 1 to 5 is, in this case, from A up to E, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 half steps. From 1 to 6, we have A up to F sharp, A up to F sharp, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 half steps. And then from 1 to 7, we have A up to G. So I'll write that in here, A up to G, And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wait a minute, I did that wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 from A up to G. I was going all the way there. I'll do that once more just so you can see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 half steps from A up to G. So now, from the tonic A up to the tonic an octave higher, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 half steps. So that is the Mixolydian mode, and you'll hear, how it sounds different from the major and the minor when you go to the piano and do your playing and singing exercises. But if you want to go through, if you find these scale sheets really useful and want to go through and fill them all out for this mode, that would be great, and you would learn a lot by doing that. But having done this for the major and the minor, if you wanted to take a shortcut, I think at that point it would be appropriate. Because if you'll notice, the Mixolydian mode is the same as the major, except for one thing. In the major, you have a situation where it goes a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. And in the Mixolydian, you have whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step. Essentially, the 7th scale degree is a half step lower in the Mixolydian mode. So if this were A major, it would be A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. And in the Mixolydian, it's A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, G natural, A. So the 7th scale degree is the only difference. So, so these are all the same in the major. It's 2 half steps up to the 2nd scale degree, 4 half steps up to the 3rd scale degree, 5 half steps up to the 4th scale degree, 7 half steps up to the 5th scale degree, 9 half steps up to the 6th scale degree, and in major it would be 11 half steps up to the 7th scale degree, which would be G sharp, but here in Mixolydian it's 10 half steps up to the 7th scale degree, which is G natural. And then in the major, this would be the same too. A up to A would be 12 half steps from the lower tonic to the tonic an octave higher. So if you think about this as being the same as major, except for the 7th scale degree being shifted down a half step, then what you can do is take your sheet here where you have all the major scales written out, all the sharp keys on one sheet and all the flat keys on another sheet, and just go through and make the adjustment here that you'd need to make the 7th scale degree 1 half step lower. So I'm going to get these, let's see, where did they go? Hold on just a moment while I find what I need here. Here it is. So here we have the page for the sharp keys for the Mixolydian. Starting with 0 sharps, 1 sharp, 2 sharp, 3 sharp, 4 sharp, 5 sharp, 6 sharp. And the way, like I said, that you would adjust the major to the Mixolydian is that you would go to the 7th scale degree and make that a half step lower. So if the 7th scale degree is a natural, then you make it a flat, make it a half step lower. And if it's a sharp, then you would make it a natural, again, a half step lower. So let's look here what we have here. So on the major scale sheet, the key with no sharps is C major. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. The 7th scale degree is B. Now in this case, to make it a half step lower, we'd make it a B flat. So that actually would have 1 flat, and that would go on the flat key sheet here. So we'll put that right now. So this key will be C Mixolydian. I'll just write C Mix for short. The key signature will have 1 flat. And in this case, the notes would be all these notes: C, D, E, F, G, A, and then the B will be B flat. We'll make it a half step lower by making it B flat and C. So the sharps, flats here would be B flat, and that would be the key signature, B flat. So that is that. So now moving on to the next one, we have G major, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. The seventh scale degree is F sharp, and to make that a half step lower, we would make that F natural. So that will have no sharps or flats. That's all naturals. So that would, in G Mixolydian, would be just G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So we can put that here for the 0 flats. This will be G Mixolydian. And the key signature has nothing in it. No sharps or flats. So I'll just write the notes here. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, F natural rather than F sharp, G. All right. So now, for D major, to convert this one to Mixolydian, we have D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. The seventh scale degree here is C sharp, and we would make that C natural. So now we'll just have D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C natural, D. So that has one sharp, so we'll go back to our sharps page. And here you would also write G Mixolydian. So I'll do that first, just to avoid confusion. G Mixolydian, which again has 0 sharps and 0 flats. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And now we were on the D Mixolydian. So I'll write D Mixolydian here. D Mixolydian, and the D major is D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Seventh scale degree is C sharp. We lower that a half step by making it C natural, and what we have is D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C natural, D. So there's one sharp, it's F sharp. And so that is the key signature. I'll do one more here. So the next one, A major, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. To make that Mixolydian, we take the seventh scale degree of the G sharp, lower it a half step, make it a G natural, and now what we have is A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G natural, A. So A Mixolydian, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G natural, A. And we have a C sharp and an F sharp there. C sharp, F sharp. So the key signature, keeping these in the correct order, F sharp and C sharp. So you'd go through them all like that, and then when you were doing the flat keys, of course, it's just the same. So you go to the seventh scale degree, in this case, to go from C major to C Mixolydian, you make the B a B flat, lower and a half step, which we already have done here on the flat page. To go from F major, F, G, A, B flat, C, D, E, F, the seventh scale degree is E, so we would make that an E flat, and just, on and on. In each one of these, the seventh scale degree, make it a half step lower by flattening it, and you will get the corresponding Mixolydian mode. So you can just continue filling these out, and you don't have to worry about going through all the worksheets again, because you've already done pretty much all that work with the major. The only difference is the seventh scale degree between the major and the Mixolydian. So once you've done like one Mixolydian full, scale sheet, you pretty much know everything you need to know about that. So when taking this shortcut, there will be one complication that you will run into, and I'll explain about that right now. I'm going to take, this is a sheet that I've done where I have all the flat keys filled out for the Mixolydian. And you'll notice that it corresponds here. So where there's 0 flats in the major, you'll have 1 flat in the Mixolydian, because of course you add a flat to make it Mixolydian. So C major here corresponds to C Mixolydian. C major with 0 flats here corresponds to C Mixolydian with 1 flat here. And then F with 1 flat corresponds, F major with 1 flat corresponds with F Mixolydian with 2 flats. And you go on down here till you get to here where D flat major with 5 flats corresponds to D flat Mixolydian with 6 flats. And then you have G flat Mixolydian, or G flat major rather, G flat major with 6 flats, and then there's no corresponding place over here for that. So basically when you end up here at D flat Mixolydian with 6 flats, that is the Mixolydian key with the most flats that we're going to use here. But that's okay. If you went on further to G flat Mixolydian, you would have 7 flats, which would be easier to write in the enharmonic way as F sharp Mixolydian, which would only have 5 sharps, which you will discover when you do your sharp keys. So so here you'll run out, and that's okay. Don't worry about G flat Mixolydian. You'll have a corresponding problem when you're doing the sharp keys, though. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to set that under there. So with the sharp keys, you'll have a situation where this is just a blank sharp key Mixolydian sheet, where it'll correspond like this. So the key with 0 sharps and flats for the major is C, but for the Mixolydian it would be G. So 1 sharp for the Mixolydian becomes 0 sharps. 1 sharp for the major becomes 0 sharps with the Mixolydian, because you're taking a sharp away for each one. So you'll notice, so G major then corresponds to G Mixolydian here, 1 sharp to 0 sharps. D major with 2 sharps would become D Mixolydian with 1 sharp. And you go on until you get to F sharp major, which has 6 sharps, and that becomes F sharp Mixolydian with 5 sharps, like we just explained from the flats. And then there is no corresponding major sharp key to turn into Mixolydian with 6 sharps. So as you may have noticed when you did your major and your Dorian scale sheets, the key that has 6 sharps can also be done enharmonically with 6 flats. So at this point, you can just skip over and look at your flat key Mixolydian sheet, and you'll see that you have D flat with 6 flats, D flat Mixolydian. So you can change that to C sharp Mixolydian, which will have 6 sharps, and then put that in here. And for that one, I'm going to recommend that you do fill out a full scale sheet for C sharp Mixolydian, so you get all the notes right. And that'll be good practice. So that, by the time you're done, you'll have done like maybe 2 Mixolydian scale sheets. So that'll help you kind of cement in your mind the relationships that make up the Mixolydian mode. So that's the only sort of complicating factor about this shortcut, and I don't think it'll throw you at all. Just do these fixes that I've told you, and you'll be fine. And the last thing I'd like to point out, just as a point of interest, is that the Mixolydian mode is also only 1 scale degree off from the Dorian mode, but it's a different scale degree. So in the Dorian, we go up a whole step, then a half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step. And in the Mixolydian, you go up whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step. And the only difference is the 3rd scale degree. So in the Dorian mode, the 3rd scale degree is 1, 2, 3 half steps above the tonic, and in the Mixolydian, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps above the tonic. So in the Mixolydian, the 3rd scale degree is a half step higher than it is in the Dorian. And all the rest of the scale degrees are the same. So you could, in fact, do that same shortcut that we did using the major, using the Dorian, and instead of shifting the 7th scale degree down a half step, you would shift the 3rd scale degree up a half step. So in every case, so like here, the 3rd scale degree is F, we would make it an F sharp. Here it's a C, we'd make it a C sharp. Here it's a G, we'd make it a G sharp. Or if it were a flat, like here it's B flat, G, A, B flat in the Dorian, and in the Mixolydian this would be a B natural. C, D, E flat in C Dorian, and in C Mixolydian this would be an E natural. So you can do it that way. Although I think it would be better to go from the major to the Mixolydian, because in some sort of systems of music theory, the major is considered sort of the default key, and all other keys are thought of in terms of how they deviate from the major. So in this case, you would be thinking of how the Mixolydian deviates from the major. And so I would suggest doing it from the major rather than the Dorian. Although if you really wanted to be, complete, you'd do both. So anyway, have fun with it. Okay, so now we'll do our playing and singing for the Mixolydian, which is just the same as it was for the major and the Dorian. I'm going to play the scale one time without singing it, just so you can hear what it sounds like, because it does sound a little different from what you might be used to hearing scales sounding like if you're used to playing, scales for classical music. So for A Mixolydian, we'll start there. We'll just go. So that's what the Mixolydian scales sound like. There are countless Irish tunes that use the Mixolydian mode, so it's an essential one to be familiar with. So you just sing it using the names of the pitches. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G, A, G, F sharp, E, D, C sharp, B, A. And you don't have to go that fast. And then singing it again using the scale degrees. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then do the intervals. 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 1, 1, 4, 1, 1, 5, 1, 1, 6, 1, 1, 7, 1, 1, 1, 1. And of course, you do that using the names of the pitches too. A, B, A, C sharp, A, D, E, A, F sharp, A, G, A. And so I have here both the scale sheet that I filled out, and then I started filling out the this. I didn't, finish this. You will have finished this by the time you sit down. If you take the shortcut, you can just sit down in one sitting and write out all these scales. And then you can come here and just play up and down the notes that you have written here, and then go, to the scale degrees. A, B, A, C sharp, A, D, A, E, A, etc. And, we don't have the numbers written in, but after doing it a couple of times, after you've been through the major and the minor, you shouldn't have any trouble with that. If you do, if for some reason that becomes confusing, you can just write the numbers underneath these or over the top of them, or go back and, fill out these sheets and just fill out maybe this bit for each one, if that's easier for you to look at and see.
if you're having some sort of problem with that. So, anyway, I just noticed that I have the wrong scale sheet up here for this. I have A Dorian rather than A Mixolydian. So pretend this is A Mixolydian. If we just change this to C sharp here. Now it's A Mixolydian. And I'd have to put that there and cross that out, put that there. Anyway, forget about all that. Just pretend that's A Mixolydian. My apologies. Carry on.